Do you remember a show where the toys came alive the second the kids left the room? No, not Toy Story. Before Toy Story. A little tiger, a teddy bear with a monocle, and a nervous rocking horse. All of them freezing solid the instant they heard footsteps on the stairs. But do you remember the rule? Because there was a rule. The toys lived by a code. And the very first law was this: never ever let the children know you can move. This is the Disney Channel, 1994. The show is called The Secret Life of Toys, and the reason it feels a little haunted is, well, because it kinda is. The people who built the puppets had just buried Jim Henson. So you did not dream this one. Let me prove it. Okay, so to understand this show, you have to go back even further to 1986, to a Christmas special called The Christmas Toy. Jim Henson, fresh off basically inventing your entire childhood, looks around and goes, what if I take the Velveteen Rabbit and the Nutcracker, throw them in a blender, and build a whole new cast of toys who secretly come to life? Henson literally called these his purposefully old-fashioned puppet productions, which is the most Jim Henson sentence ever written. The man could have done anything. He chose handcrafted. And in that original special, the stakes were dark. If a toy got caught out of place by a human, it froze forever. That is not a lesson about sharing. That is a horror movie wearing a sweater. Then 1990 happens. Jim Henson dies. He is 53 years old. The most beloved puppeteer who ever lived is suddenly gone, and the company he built has to figure out whether it can keep building worlds without the man whose hands made them. Enter Brian Henson, Jim's son. He comes back to America, takes over the company, and one of his earliest moves is this: resurrect his dad's toy world as a brand new series. Same teddy bear, same tiger, new show. He brings in Jocelyn Stevenson, a longtime Henson writer who came up through child development and Children's Television Workshop and Fraggle Rock, so this is not some random hired gun. And then he loads the cast with the actual Fraggle crew, the heavy hitters Dave Goelz and Jerry Nelson, men who performed right alongside Jim for decades. And then, for reasons that remain genuinely hilarious, they shipped the entire thing to Germany. Yeah, hold that thought. Here is where it gets good. Because everyone wants to call this show Henson did Toy Story first, and sure, technically, the Toys Come Alive idea beat Pixar to the punch by a year, but that comparison is lazy and it misses the whole point. The Secret Life of Toys is not a show about toys. It is a horror anthology for preschoolers that was too polite to admit it. Watch how it uses space. The show's secret weapon was scale. A bookshelf becomes a cliff. A radiator becomes a cave with a survivor trap behind it. And the attic becomes Beamland. Beamland is a dark, forbidden room above the nursery that the toys talk about like it is the underworld. The lore, according to the toys themselves, is that nobody who goes up there ever comes back.
In Beamland there's no love, no light. It's not a very pretty sight. There's dark above and dark below, a dreadful place for toys to go. There's nowhere on the beams to sit, and so you fall into the pit. And as you drop you feel so rotten, because you know you'll be forgotten.
Don't lose your dreams among the beams. Beware, beware, beware of being beamed. Beware of Beamland.
Beams! Beams!
What the fuck was that? Who okayed that episode? That is cosmic horror for 4-year-olds. Until I started making YouTube videos, I had this episode stuck in my head and I forgot what it was from. I just remembered a puppet saying, "Beam, beam!" Except I thought they were saying beans. I still can't look at a pile of lima beans without having a panic attack. And in the one that still gets me, a toy gets put in the donation box to be given to a new child, which is supposed to be a beautiful, selfless thing, except from the toy's point of view, it is just being exiled from the only family it has ever known. The show kept doing this. It kept taking wholesome preschool lessons and quietly turning them into existential dread. Now meet the cast. There is Balthazar, the wise old teddy bear with the button monocle.
All clear, everyone. They're gone.
And here is a detail I will never recover from. The voice for Balthazar came from Jerry Nelson, and to find the character, Jerry based him on Colonel Sanders, the KFC guy. Before takes, Jerry would quietly mutter "buy one get one free" to himself to warm up the voice. So every comforting, grandfatherly thing that Bear ever said to a frightened toy was, spiritually, a fried chicken coupon. You are welcome. You will hear it now, forever. Then there is Hortense, a rocking horse with a fretful, anxious, very Welsh personality.
I did not. I'm a rocking horse. Would I throw anyone?
Who needed two entirely different puppets to exist, an animatronic one for the wide shots, and a hand puppet for the close-ups, and my personal favorite piece of accidental genius, Humble Gary. Humble Gary is a tiger who only exists because the workshop tried to redesign Rugby, the main tiger, and Dave Goelz looked at the new puppet and basically went, "That is not Rugby, that is a different guy." So they wrote him into the show, an entire character born out of a craft project that went sideways. Honestly, relatable. And that, the willingness to let a glue gun accident become a cast member, is exactly why the show worked. It thought like a child, it believed objects had souls, and rules, and fears. Remember Germany? Here is the cocktail. An American Henson property made for the Disney Channel, performed by British puppeteers, taped in a studio in Mannheim, Germany. It is the most international preschool puppet show you have never heard of, and it explains why the whole thing has this faint, dreamy, slightly off quality. It was made nowhere near where it lives in your memory. So, was it a hit? Here is the tea. The critics were not kind. The Los Angeles Times reviewed the premiere and dropped one of the cleanest disses in children's television history. The scoreline was, and I quote, Muppets 10, Magic 0. Oof. The reviewer basically said the show was all panic and no wonder that every episode was just toys having an anxiety attack about getting caught, which, honestly, was not wrong. But it also kind of misses that the anxiety was the appeal. And yet, here is the twist. The same little show that got publicly dunked on, then turned around and picked up a Daytime Emmy nomination and a Cable Ace nomination, so the industry quietly respected it, even while the reviews were lighting it on fire. But the real story is what it became. The Secret Life of Toys never got a giant toy line. No Happy Meal Tigers. It got 2 VHS tapes in 1995, and eventually a single DVD volume in 2013, and then it basically dissolved into the streaming ether. So it survives almost entirely in memory. Go on the old Muppet forums and you will find grown adults going, "Wait, did I imagine the show where the toys came alive and one of them got turned into a paper bag monster?" Oh right, the paper bag monster. In one episode, the children make a little puppet out of a paper bag and decide he is one of the toy's brother. And because the toy believes it so hard, the bag actually comes alive, and he is mean. The show is quietly telling preschoolers that belief is powerful enough to animate garbage into a bully. That is not a lesson. That is a warning. And the reason people remember this show as scarier than it had any right to be, it is because it was. They just packed the horror in felt so your parents would not notice. The conspiracy theory. Okay, we need to talk about the elephant in the playroom, because if you have made it this far, you are already thinking it. The toys come alive the moment the humans leave. There is a sacred rule about never letting the humans find out. The toys are terrified of being replaced, terrified of being given away to a new kid, and this aired on the Disney Channel in 1994. 1 year later, Disney puts out a little movie called Toy Story. So a lot of you are sitting there going, wait a minute, did Pixar just walk into Henson's nursery and rob it blind? Let me make the case for the prosecution. Because it is spicier than you think. The Secret Life of Toys did not just do toys come alive first. It did the exact emotional anxieties that Toy Story built its entire franchise on. The donation box exile, where being given away feels like banishment. The Henson Show did that, and called it It's a Giveaway in 1994. The toy who gets forgotten and becomes obsolete did it. The pure terror of a human discovering the secret? That is the whole premise. And here's the kicker. Both of these were flying under the Disney umbrella. Same channel, same corporate family, 1 year apart. If you squint, it stops looking like a coincidence and starts looking like a heist. So a real chunk of fans have argued for years that the Jim Henson Company was owed something, a credit, a thank you. At minimum, a fruit basket. Now let me put on the defense attorney hat, because honesty matters here. The problem with the theory is this. Toys being secretly alive is not a Henson invention. It is one of the oldest ideas we have. The Velveteen Rabbit did it in 1922.
The Nutcracker did it back in the 1800s. Henson himself said straight up that those two were his inspiration, and Pixar's whole Toys Are Alive idea grew out of a short film called Tin Toy, which came out in 1988 while the Henson series was still years from existing. So if we are handing out trophies for who got there first, it arguably goes to a Tiny Tin one-man band, not a felt tiger. So what is the honest verdict? Nobody stole anything. You had two sets of brilliant artists drinking from the same ancient well and arriving at the same beautiful idea at almost the exact same moment, which, when you sit with it, is somehow stranger and better than theft. It means the idea was just out there in the air, floating around the culture like something that desperately wanted to be made, and it grabbed the first hands it could find. But here is the part that actually gets me. Toy Story became a multi-billion-dollar empire that your kids can quote by heart. And this show, the one that whispered the same secret 1 year earlier, vanished so completely that grown adults are not even sure it was real. Same idea. Two wildly different fates. And that gap between the toys the whole world remembers and the toys almost nobody does is exactly where this story stops being funny. But here is the thing I cannot stop thinking about. This show is about toys who have to keep a secret. The first rule of their entire existence is that they have to pretend every single time a human walks in that nothing is happening, that they are not alive, that they do not feel anything. They have to freeze and smile and wait for the room to empty before they are allowed to move again. And it was made by a company that had just lost its father. Think about that. 1990, Jim Henson is gone, and his people, the same hands that built Kermit and Fraggle Rock, walk into a workshop and build a world where the toys you loved as a kid are secretly alive, secretly watching over you, secretly caring about you when you are not in the room. They built proof in felt and foam and wire that the things we love do not actually stop existing when we leave. They just go quiet. And they wait for us to come back? You had a toy like that. You know you did. The one you talked to. The one you were genuinely slightly worried about when you left it in the car overnight. And some part of you, the part that never fully grew up, still half believes it was real, that it noticed, that it loved you back. This show was made by grieving people who needed that to be true, who needed to believe that when someone leaves the room for the last time, the love does not die with them. It just becomes a secret. It keeps moving in the dark, quietly, faithfully, waiting for you. You did not dream this show. You remembered it because, deep down, you needed it to be real too.
If this unlocked a memory for you you forgot you had, do me a favor and hit the like button, subscribe, and the ring bell, because every one of these keeps these forgotten little shows from vanishing completely. You are not just watching a channel. You, my friend, are the cleanup crew for the attic of the entire generation's memory. Beamland that nobody else was brave enough to go back into. And we go back together. See you in the next one.